Elizabeth Braddock, Earth-616. Elizabeth Betsy Braddock is a British mutant telepath who has acted both alongside the X-Men as Psylocke and as a champion for Otherworld as Captain Britain. While her twin brother Brian became the original Captain Britain, Betsy developed psychic powers. By serving in S.T.R.I.K.E. Psi Division, her path as a secret agent crossed with her brother's superhero activities. She acted as an ally to her brother in several conflicts, eventually adopting the Captain Britain mantle. Blinded by the villain Slaymaster, Braddock stood down as Captain Britain, only to be captured and to have her sight restored by Mojo and Spiral. Rescued by the New Mutants and the X-Men, Braddock joined the ranks of the latter as Psylocke. As a member of the X-Men, Braddock has experienced unimaginable adventures. Her life got unexpectedly twisted when her body was switched with Quan-Non, an assassin ninja. Freed by Wolverine, Psylocke returned to the X-Men having to cope with the experience of being stuck in another woman's body. For years, she was a loyal soldier to the X-Men, collaborating with different squadrons and paying the ultimate price when she was slain by the villain Vargas. Resurrected by her older brother, Jamie, Psylocke resumed her adventurous lifestyle by accompanying the X-Men and other groups, such as the Multiversal Exiles and the lethally destructive X-Force. Braddock's issues with her body swap were unexpectedly solved after she was seemingly killed by sapphire sticks and was able to recover in her original body. Soon after, all mutant kind was invited by Professor Xavier to live on Krakoa. There, she rejected the name Psylocke and was involved in Apocalypse's machinations to recreate the mutant group Excalibur. As a result, Betsy Braddock resumed her one-time role as a mutant Captain Britain, becoming the prime champion of the Captain Britain Corps. History. The Braddock family. A denizen of the extra-dimensional Otherworld, Sir James Braddock was sent by Merlin to Earth-616 to father the champion who would be known as Captain Britain. In England, Sir James established a distinguished career as a research scientist, married Lady Braddock, set up home at Braddock Manor and sired Jamie, whose subverted genes rendered him unfit to be the hero Merlin had expected. Around a decade later, Braddock had two more children, the twins Elizabeth, nicknamed Betsy, and Brian. As a child, Betsy idolized her older brother Jamie for his adventurous lifestyle as a racing driver, being closer to him than to her twin Brian. As a teenager, she lived in New York City to pursue a modeling career, where her telepathic mutant powers activated in a traumatic experience. The consequences of her mutant activation were never revealed, and she seemed not to be able to fully access her powers in her early adult years. After her parents' deaths in an explosion caused by the malfunctioning computer mastermind, Betsy worked as a charter pilot. Soon after Brian became the champion Captain Britain, she alerted him that their brother Jamie had been injured in an apparent attack when testing his racing car on the grounds of Braddock Manor. Betsy flew Brian back to the manor, and her plane was downed by the psychic powers of Dr. Sin. Luckily, both survived the second accident, but Dr. Sin mind-controlled Betsy into trying to kill her brothers. The Braddock brothers ultimately overpowered her. Following the incident, Betsy was taken to the nearby Mortar Research Center, unwittingly being delivered into the hands of one of Sin's agents, Dr. Ramsey. Brian defeated Sin, and Ramsey reverted to his true allegiances as an agent of the Nazi Red Skull, claiming Betsy and Jamie as hostages. Both were freed by Captain Britain and his ally Captain America. Sometime later, Betsy had a visionary dream warning her of Brian being attacked by the Mad Lord Hawk, an indication of her mutant psychic abilities. S.T.R.I.K.E. Psi Division. Betsy Braddock quit the charter business and took up modeling, gaining international praise in her career. As her psychic powers grew, she made mental contact with the S.T.R.I.K.E. Psi agent, being recruited by Agent Matthew, with whom she pursued a brief romance. Sometime later, Braddock became the lover of fellow Psi, Tom Lennox. Maintaining her modeling career as a cover for S.T.R.I.K.E., she once attempted to infiltrate the cryptic Hellfire Club, where her father had been a member of, but was warned off by Tessa. Around this period, also at the Hellfire Club, she was introduced to the charming Warren Worthington III. Betsy had lost track of Brian while he adventured in America and in Otherworld. He returned in time to help her when S.T.R.I.K.E. Psis were targeted for assassination by Slaymaster, who had been hired by the crime lord Vixen to cover her takeover of S.T.R.I.K.E. Betsy, Lennox, and Allison Double sought refuge in Braddock Manor, though they had to flee as Brian and his allies, Saturnine and the Special Executive, battled the hero-killing, extra-dimensional symbiote, the Fury. With the insane reality warper Mad Jim Jaspers taking over the country, Betsy and her friends hid out in London. Lennox was killed, while Betsy and Double were captured by Jaspers' forces. The two women ended up in a concentration camp until Jaspers' reign was brought to an end, partially by the efforts of Captain Britain. Betsy, who had been in mental contact with Lennox when he died, met and convalesced under the care of Victoria Bentley at the camp. Bentley not only helped Braddock recover, but also taught her to harness the trauma she had experienced to strengthen her psychic powers. R.616's Captain Britain. Betsy returned home to Braddock Manor, where Brian fought a counterpart of his from another reality, the sadist Captain Britain. Britain won the encounter and impersonated Brian, while the real Brian was taken by extra-dimensional mercenaries, the TechNet, to Britain's fascistic reality. Britain tried to rape Betsy, but she fried his brain with her psychic abilities, killing him instantly. Subsequently, R.616, the agency which had replaced S.T.R.I.K.E, came to Braddock Manor seeking Captain Britain's aid to take care of the Warpies, children who were genetically altered by Jasper's attack. One of the agents who made the approach was Betsy's old flame, Matthew, now using the codename Gabriel. Brian refused to work with them, much to Betsy's rage. R.616 were advised by the computer mastermind to trick Brian and his girlfriend, Megan, into leaving Braddock Manor. After doing so, Gabriel persuaded Betsy to replace Brian as the new Captain Britain. By wearing Captain Britain's costume, Betsy had strength magnified and was enabled to fly as the new Captain Britain. The hero Captain UK trained her in crime-fighting skills, and they acted as partners for several months. Captain UK eventually opted to let Betsy follow a solo career as Captain Britain. Soon after, the Vixen lured Betsy into an ambush, where Slaymaster brutally blinded her. Brian felt his twins' pain through the psychic bond they shared. He came to Betsy's rescue and killed Slaymaster, once again taking up the Captain Britain mantle. Betsy was offered new cybernetic eyes by R.616, but refused, preferring to rely on her telepathy to see. She later accepted Gabriel's proposal of marriage, and the engaged couple traveled to the Swiss Alps, where they hoped she could recuperate in peace. Psylocke. Unfortunately, Braddock was kidnapped from the Alps by Mojo and Spiral, being surgically given artificial eyes. Mojo mentally controlled Braddock, renamed her Psylocke and had her star in his popular new show, The Wild Ways. He used Psylocke to lure children around the world into joining his junior team, the Brat Pack. When Mojo captured some of the new mutants, students from the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, the rest of the group went to the TV show Reality to save their teammates. Braddock was found and rescued by Cypher and Warlock. She chose to stay at Xavier's, also home of the X-Men, since her powers were mutant in origin. Her bionic eyes were revealed to be cameras when Mojo regressed the X-Men to X-Babies to film their adventures. Braddock and the New Mutants battled the de-aged X-Men to break them free and defeat Mojo. During the massacre of the Morlocks, Braddock was in charge of helping the wounded and of telepathically monitoring the X-Men who were in combat against the Marauders. After the first strike, Braddock faced the Savage Sabretooth in a brawl throughout the X-Mansion that destroyed Cerebro, the X-Men's mutant detector. Impressed by Braddock's courage, the battle-ravaged X-Men offered her a position on the team, which she accepted under the codename Psylocke. Next, Psylocke fought Malice with the X-Men. This was followed by a confrontation on Muir Island between Juggernaut and the newest X-Men members, Psylocke, Rogue, Dazzler, and Longshot, which served as a baptism of fire for them. Back in New York, the X-Men's leader Storm decided that, in order to safeguard their friends and families from their many enemies, the X-Men should go underground as a proactive strike force. Unexpectedly, Havoc showed up to check on the team and Storm ordered Psylocke to erase the event from his memory. However, due to Professor Xavier's mental defenses, he resisted. Psylocke suggested killing Havoc instead, much to his horror, although he still joined the team. When Brian and Megan visited Betsy at the X-Mansion, the X-Men were abducted by Horde, who planned to use them to retrieve the Crystal of Ultimate Vision from the Citadel of Light and Shadow, where it was hidden. Illusions of each of the X-Men's most wished desires and were cast. Psylocke was transformed into a metallic warrior as her heart wished for physical invulnerability. She sacrificed herself to slow Horde down. Wolverine, empowered to godhood, rejected this illusion, returning the X-Men and their friends home. Soon after, the X-Men briefly made Alcatraz Island their new hideout when tracking the Marauders, who at the time hunted Madeline Pryor. Psylocke mainly acted as the psychic link between the members of the group. Fall of the X-Men. When the X-Men searched for a missing Storm at Forge's Eagle Plaza in Dallas, they were attacked by Freedom Force. During the fight, a rift opened in the sky followed by a maelstrom of bizarre events. The X-Men and Freedom Force formed a temporary alliance to save the citizens of Dallas. Psylocke then recognized Roma, the ruler of Otherworld, in Colossus' recent memories. Gaining access to the Starlight Citadel, the X-Men battled the adversary and sacrificed their lives to imprison him with a spell cast by Forge. These events had been broadcast on TV and the world believed the heroes to be dead. Roma restored the X-Men to life, an opportunity for the team fully go underground. The group resurfaced in Australia, occupying the former Reavers' hideout. With the Reavers thrown out, Roma presented the X-Men with the Siege Perilous, a gem that cast a teleporting portal which granted any person who walked through it judgment and a new chance at life. Psylocke began wearing an invulnerable body armor that Wolverine ordered from Landau, Luckman and Lake to prevent herself from being a physical liability to the team. During this period, the X-Men battled the Brood in Denver and Magistrates in Genosha. In the Reavers' hideout, Psylocke had various interactions with her teammates. During a training session, she psychically freed Carol Danvers' personality from Rogue's mind, and, to pass the time, she would pose for Colossus paintings. When a demonic invasion was unleashed by Pryor, Psylocke telepathically assisted the X-Men into probing into Jean Grey's memories. Soon after, she accompanied Carol Danvers, in Rogue's body, to her old apartment, where they were attacked by the Master Mold and Nimrod. Senator Robert Kelly's wife was killed during the battle, and Psylocke attempted to ease the pain of her passing. The Master Mold merged with Nimrod and got lost with Rogue by being dragged into the Siege Perilous. The X-Men had additional losses, Longshot left to find clues of his origins, and Storm was apparently killed by Nanny. Psylocke assumed a leading role for the remaining X-Men, much to Havoc's dislike, as he regarded her as an unscrupulous telepath. The remaining X-Men went to the Savage Land following a call for help from Polaris. On the Savage Land, Psylocke had a premonition about the X-Men being slain by the Reavers. She opted to transport the X-Men through the Siege Perilous rather than face the threat of the Reavers, now led by Donald Pierce. To convince Havoc to go through the Siege Perilous, she confirmed his suspicions and telepathically forced him to do so. Due to her actions, the X-Men were no more. Assassin Ninja. From the Siege Perilous, Psylocke emerged on an island in the South China Sea. In one of her more bizarre encounters, she was captured by Hand Crime Lord Matsuo Tsurayaba, who had her switch bodies with his comatose lover, an assassin known as Quan Non. Psylocke was brainwashed into becoming Lady Mandarin, working for the Mandarin in Hong Kong as his right hand. She regained her free will after establishing psychic contact with Wolverine. The experience left Braddock and Quan Non physically switched and mentally merged. As such, Psylocke adopted a more offensive fighting style, having the body and training of a lethal assassin ninja and relying on her telepathy in the form of a psychic knife to hurt her opponents. Joined by Wolverine and Jubilee, Psylocke stayed in Madripoor until learning the New Mutants had been captured by the Genoshan government as part of a plan envisioned by Cameron Hodge. The trio traveled to Genosha and rejoined the X-Men to put Hodge down. Back to the X-Mansion in Westchester, Psylocke had to cope with the drastic changes she had undergone. There, she and Jean Grey were attacked by the Shadow King. Sometime later, the X-Men retrieved Professor Xavier from the Shi'ar Empire after fighting Skrulls, when Psylocke was momentarily replaced by a Skrull. Once more led by Professor X, the X-Men faced the Shadow King on Muir Island, and Psylocke fell into his vile clutches. With the Shadow King defeated, X-Factor merged into the X-Men. Back to basics. In the reformed X-Men, Psylocke became part of Cyclops' Blue Team, clashing in their first mission against her former ally in the X-Men, Magneto, and his acolytes. In their following mission, Psylocke proved to be especially useful for the team against Matsuo Tsurayaba and the Hand. Psylocke's loyalty to the X-Men was put to the test when she pretended to be under Tsurayaba's influence only to betray him and Omega Red, ruining their plans. Psylocke traveled to England to attend a party held by her brother Brian, now part of the British superhero team Excalibur. The party was interrupted when Psylocke psychically felt Brigadier Sandy Stewart being murdered by her brother, Jamie, under orders of Master Exopoluensat Yernine. With his recently discovered mutant powers and being mentally detached from reality, Jamie easily subdued Psylocke. Since Megan was immune to Jamie's powers, Psylocke was able to stab Jamie's brain with her psychic knife, leaving the brother she used to adore in a catatonic state. Back at the X-Mansion, Psylocke was shown to be attracted to Cyclops. She started to flirt with her leader, attempting to seduce him. The situation escalated when they shared a kiss, suggesting an affair. Cyclops rejected her and claimed he was committed to Jean Grey, who later questioned Psylocke in the danger room about the situation. Unexpectedly, Quan Non interfered, fought Psylocke and won, claiming to be the real Betsy Braddock. The X-Men were not able to confirm which woman was the real Betsy Braddock and went to Japan to meet Lord Nyron, a crime lord who Quan Non claimed to be Psylocke's master. Little did this trip help in answering questions about Psylocke's true identity. Quan Non returned with the X-Men and joined the team as Revanche, causing immense discomfort between her and Psylocke in the team. Not long after, Revanche contracted the legacy virus. Revanche had Tsurayaba kill her before the virus could, still in Psylocke's original body. As Revanche died, her telepathic powers reached their peak due to the infection, revealing the full truth about the body swap. She also absorbed all of her memories and her personality traits from Psylocke's mind. Betsy Braddock lived, certain of her identity, but was trapped in Quanon's body. While Psylocke went through this identity crisis, she got close to her fellow teammate, Warren Worthington III, aka Archangel. Together, they investigated the new Black King of the pompous Hellfire Club, Shinobi Shaw. Shaw wished to force Worthington into his inner circle as the White King. Psylocke helped her teammate by knocking out Shaw with her psychic knife. Eventually, recognizing they had much in common as both had experienced radical changes, body and soul, Braddock and Worthington started a relationship. Attributes. Powers. Betsy Braddock is a powerful mutant psychic, manifesting a vast and ever-changing set of telepathic and telekinetic abilities throughout the years. In addition to being a psychic, she was also gifted with the Captain Britain empowering mantle in different stages of her life. Telepathy. Braddock has developed powerful mental powers that allow her to interact with, affect and manipulate the minds of other sentient beings over distances. When she makes use of her telepathy, a large butterfly-like image is usually cast over her face. She tends to use her telepathy in an aggressive manner against foes. Psychic knife. Described as the focused totality of her psychic powers, Braddock can create psychic blades on her fists by intensely channeling and focusing her psychic powers. They are razor-sharp edges of pure mental energy which she plunges into the minds of her targets directly. Braddock often uses them to disrupt the minds of her foes by driving the glowing blade of mental energy into their skulls. They are potentially lethal. After having assumed the role of Captain Britain, Braddock apparently stopped wielding the psychic knives in her fights. Psychic blasts, being capable of projecting psychic force bolts which can affect a victim's mind and cause them pain, confusion, unconsciousness, or even death. Astral projection. By projecting her astral form from her body, Braddock can cast her consciousness onto astral planes or the physical plane. On the astral plane, she can mentally create psychic objects and manipulate the aspects of her environment, including battles against other psychics. Under the influence of the Crimson Dawn, her astral form was totally undetectable. Telepathic shadow. With the telepathic suggestion of being ignored by others, Braddock can mask her presence from others. She can extend these defenses to others around her as well. Her abilities can go undetected and are very difficult to track, even by very powerful telepaths such as Shadow King. Illusions. Braddock can mentally fabricate illusory sensations, experiences, events and memories that have no factual correlation on the minds of others. Mind control. By mentally imposing her will over the minds of others, Braddock is ultimately capable of controlling their actions as a puppeteer. Paralysis. More specifically, Braddock is able to induce temporary mental and physical paralysis. Telepathic amnesia. Braddock can affect past memories of others and erase any awareness of particular memories or cause total amnesia. Telepathic detection. Enhanced psychic senses enable Braddock to track other sentient beings in her immediate vicinity by their unique psychic emanations, especially if they pose a threat to her well-being. She also can scan large areas and track her vicinity, as well as detect the psyches of the inhabitants of a city to learn of their location and condition. Telepathic immunity. After being resurrected by her older brother Jamie, Betsy Braddock exhibited immunity to certain psychic abilities such as mind reading and illusions. However, in some incidents, she has been shown to be prone to be affected by other telepaths. Telekinesis. Ever since exchanging abilities with Jean Grey, Braddock has been able to psychically manipulate and control the physical aspects of matter, allowing her to move and levitate objects and living beings. Although she can move objects from a distance and fly as other telekinetics do, she has shown little inclination to do either in combat situations. Her telekinesis are described to be robust, in the sense she found easier to use her telekinesis in forceful ways, usually by crafting energy weapons. Telekinetic weapons. Braddock's telekinesis has great versatility, as she has used it to construct psychic weapons that damage a target either physically, mentally, or both at some point. She has shown skill in creating multiple types of psychic weapons that differ in size and power, which she uses in combat. Her telekinetic manifestations produce visible radiance in the physical world, which can be used as a makeshift light source in areas of darkness. Telekinetic sword/katana. Braddock can manifest a telekinetic sword composed of raw psychic energy at will, which functions to disrupt neural pathways or cut through matter with precision. Her telekinetic sword is strong enough to harm beings more powerful than herself. When inhabiting Quanon's body, her sword usually manifested as a katana. After returning to her original body, she produced a sword more similar to a European knight's sword in its fashion, often used alongside a strong telekinetic shield. Telekinetic crossbow/bow and arrows. Showing more versatility when it comes to her psychic constructs, Braddock can create energy bows and arrows, which she uses to attack her targets from a distance. Telekinetic spiked flail. One manifestation of Braddock's telekinetic abilities was once a spiked flail which she used to destroy a wall. Force field, Braddock is capable of creating telekinetic shields of all sizes to deflect/decelerate incoming attacks. She can alter their sizes and strengths to her will. More recently, she has been shown a preference to shape her main field as a solid shield that resembles those wielded by medieval knights. Flight, personalizing her telekinetic abilities in such a way to propel herself through the air, Braddock can fly at variable speeds, an ability she declares to enjoy exploring a lot. Concussive blasts, Braddock can release powerful blasts or bursts made of telekinetic force that on the lowest level can stun targets but on the highest level can destroy entire mountains. Telekinetically enhanced condition, using her telekinesis, Braddock is able to enhance her speed, strength, agility, and fighting skills to superhuman levels. Telekinetic invisibility, by using her telekinesis to skew light around her body, Braddock has shown the ability to render herself invisible. Dream-based precognition, Braddock's psychic abilities originally manifested as precognitive dreams. She was able to predict that her twin brother Brian would be attacked by Lord Hawk and that the Reavers would kill her and her X-Men teammates. It is unknown if this ability remains in the present. Reality warp immunity, after being resurrected by her older brother Jamie, Betsy Braddock was changed at a quantum level in order to be resilient to the multiversal entity called the First Fallen. Her personal being gave her immunity to being affected by different forms of magic, telepathy, and alterations to the space-time continuum, as well as imperceptibility to similarly empowered beings. Apparently, she has lost such resistance, considering she has been affected by the actions of reality shapers, such as Legion, Proteus, and X-Man. Otherworlder, as a half-Otherworlder, Betsy Braddock has the potential to manifest additional abilities unusual to ordinary humans due to her unique origin. Abilities. Master Martial Artist, originally, Braddock had advanced training as a fighter from S.T.R.I.K.E. As an X-Man, she was taught in combat in constant training sessions, with Wolverine and other X-Men. After swapping bodies with Quan Non, she acquired all the fighting knowledge the deadly assassin had, being classified as a master martial artist, though the specific fighting arts she had mastered have never been revealed. Presumably, as a ninja, she is skilled in various ninjutsu techniques. Even though she is known as a ninja and worked for the Hand as one, her fighting skills and techniques far surpass those of the average Hand ninja or Crimson Dawn Undercloak. Her skills have been said to rival those of a ninja grandmaster. As an exile, Braddock has also received additional training from Sabretooth and Ogun that vastly developed her skills in this area. She is also very well versed in the use of ninja weapons, stealth methods, silent movement, infiltration, concealment, escape and evasion, covert methods, ninja espionage, and ninja acrobatics. After returning to her original body, Braddock has assumed different methods to battle, being closer to those of medieval combat. Master telepathic combatant, as a telepath, Braddock takes advantage of her powers in a fight by, for instance, reading her opponent's movements seconds before they make them, giving her the opportunity to counterattack faster. She can also use her telepathy to mask her presence from other people, humans and superhumans alike. She can create telepathic illusions to distract and incapacitate her enemies while fighting them. Braddock has declared she has fewer inhibitions about executing enemies if necessary. Advanced telekinetic combatant, as a telekinetic, Braddock can use her powers to augment her strength and speed, which made her fighting skills strong enough to outmatch other superhumanly strong opponents, like Sabretooth. Trained pilot, Braddock worked as a charter pilot, being experienced in controlling airplanes. On several occasions, she was tasked of piloting the X-Men Blackbird. Weaknesses. Lack of skill, having been imbued with huge telekinetic powers later in her career as an adventurer, Braddock struggled to exhibit fine control over her abilities. Although her power levels were high enough to destroy mountains, she found herself facing difficulties in telekinetically affecting smaller objects for more delicate tricks. It is not clear if Braddock still has limitations concerning her fine telekinetic control. Telepathy/telekinesis balance. The strength and stability of Braddock's telepathic and telekinetic powers is said to depend on how much she is using the other, since using both at once makes it hard for her to focus and lowers the level of power. Paraphernalia. Equipment. Captain Britain's uniform. As Captain Britain, Braddock wears a special magical uniform that provides her several abilities. The uniform is used by all members of the Captain Britain Corps and it acts as a beacon and a battery for the mystic energies of Otherworld. Braddock can cast the uniform only when she is in possession of either the Amulet of Power, currently destroyed, or the Starlight Sword. Braddock's first Captain Britain uniform had been originally worn by the corpsman Captain Britain. Flight. Captain Britain has the ability to self-propel herself through the air. Superhuman strength. Wearing a Captain Britain uniform, Braddock acquires increased strength. The limits of her strength are not assessed and remain unrevealed. As an example of her augmented strength, she was once able to destroy firearms with her bare hands. Superhuman durability. As Captain Britain, it seems that Braddock manifests enhanced durability. She was able to jump from the top of the Braddock lighthouse, falling several meters to the ground with no injuries. Assuming she manifests similar abilities her brother did when wearing Captain Britain's uniform, it might be assumed this is due to the uniform emitting a surrounding force field over her body. Weapons. Starlight Sword. To enter the Otherworld contest, as one of the sword-bearers of Krakoa, Braddock tricked Saturnine into forging the Starlight Sword, a replacement for the Amulet of Right as the conduit of her Captain Britain's powers. The Starlight Sword was crafted from a piece of the Starlight Citadel, made of an unknown and weightless material. The wielder of the sword steps into the role of a champion of the Otherworld. Psylocke once owned a katana named Shirayuki, that was forged in Japan 1,000 years ago and given to her by an unrevealed friend. She used to telekinetically charge her katana with psychic energy. It is unknown if Braddock kept her katana after returning to her original body. Various telekinetic weapons. Transportation. Krakoan gateways, formerly X-Men Blackbird, a flying Bentley Roadster, Magic, Gateway, from Earth-295, Gateway, from Earth-616, and her former charter plane. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kayashin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my P at Trian. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Ben Phillips.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.